I would now like to introduce the next speaker, Mr. Anthony Hayes, who is President of Toronto Hydro Energy System Limited. Mr. Hayes is responsible for the overall operations of one of Canada's largest local distribution electric utilities, serving 680,000 customers here in the City of Toronto. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Hayes.
Well, good morning, everybody. As is normal, of course, we've had some of our communications people prepare a speech for me, and I thought, as I was sitting waiting to have my chance at the podium, I thought, you know what, let me put that speech aside and just talk to you from the heart this morning. So I'm going to do that. So I did write myself a couple of notes, if I could keep on track then. First of all, I want to tell you a story about why Toronto Hydro is so active in conservation, and it's a personal story. It started about 3 or 4 years ago when I had an opportunity to sit with Dr. David Suzuki. And he gave me some very sobering messages. You know, the electric sector and the energy sector produce something like 80% of greenhouse gases in Canada. Buildings contribute about 40% of those greenhouse gases in the way they use energy today. And these are very sobering messages. And the last one that he stuck in my brain that I couldn't get out, he said to me, you know what, it's either up to this generation or the next generation, but if we don't get it right, we will reach a point of no return. So I went home that night, and I have 3 teenagers, young teenagers, and I asked them, you know what, I spoke to David Suzuki today, and he really shook me up. And you know what my teenagers said? Who's David Suzuki? And I was appalled. I thought, these kids couldn't possibly not know about climate change and who David Suzuki was. No way. There's no way they got to grade 10 and 11 and don't have a clue. And so it fundamentally shook me up, and I took that message back to our management team, and I said, you know what we're doing just isn't enough. And so I want to report to you this morning on some of the things we have been doing. So since 2005, we went to the Ontario Energy Board and we sought a program of conservation and funding necessary to fund that program. And here's our results. Here's our report card, if you will. To date, we've handed out about 1.2 million CFL light bulbs to our customers. So take those old light bulbs and create a pile for a minute. And the next thing we did is we went out there and ran programs on weekends with Home Depot to collect these inefficient air conditioning units that sit in the windows. And we set ourselves a target. We thought, you know what, maybe we can get 6,000 customers to bring their old air conditioners in. Today, 19,000 air conditioners have been taken off the grid. Put those air conditioners on the pile for a minute. The next thing we did is we focused on local business improvement districts, and we took inefficient festival lighting out. 80,000 strings of inefficient lights came out. Put those on the pile. Next thing we did was we got rid of those inefficient bar fridges, or beer fridges, I guess they call them in the basement. You know, when people buy a new fridge, they don't throw it away. They put the old one downstairs. 15,000 of those have now been removed from Toronto homes and businesses. Put those on the pile. Then we really got innovative. That wasn't enough. So we did a couple of things which I'm enormously proud of. And I'm proud of this because they were the first of their kind. The first time in Canada that we'd run some of these programs. And I must tell you, as we were delivering them, I had no idea on how we were going to do it. We literally launched the programs and asking ourselves, I wonder how this is going to work. I wonder if we have the systems to manage these programs. I wonder how we're going to deal with all the customer questions. And so there's a group of programs that I'm enormously proud of. The first one is today we have about 50,000 homes that have turned their air conditioning control over to Toronto Hydro. And so on hot days when coal plants are being run and we're bringing high sulfur coal electricity into the city, there's 50,000 homes that have said, you know what, you can turn down my air conditioner, Toronto Hydro. I trust you to take control of that. And we delivered that program. We introduced a program called our Summer Challenger 10-10 program, and it was a simple program. You reduce your electricity consumption by 10%, you get a 10% rebate. How simple could you be? And you know what? 150,000 homes achieved that objective for 2 years in a row. So they've, in essence, reduced 20% of their consumption as a residential level. But what's more important about that program is that really meant that thousands and thousands of households were thinking about conservation of energy for 60 days every summer. And I think that was a wonderful cultural change that came along with it. The next thing we did with that program, we then introduced it to businesses, and last summer was the first of its kind ever to introduce that sort of program to businesses, and 12,000 businesses in Toronto reduced their consumption by more than 10% and received a rebate. We've worked with the city to convert about 60 of the community centres over to high-efficiency community centres. All these things add up to about a $60 million investment to date. About 360 megawatts have been reduced. Obviously, large numbers, and we're very proud of that result. We've received over 25 awards, both locally and internationally, for these programs. We literally get energy companies coming through our organization every day now asking us, how did you do it? How did you do it? But here's the sobering reality of all of that success. And when we might want to sit back and say, aren't we great? Here's the sobering reality, that the average growth of electricity demand in this city grew at about the same rate as that amount that we were able to curtail. So as we were busily reducing consumption by about 360 megawatts, consumption grew by 300. That's really the challenge that we have ahead of us, is a real cultural change on the way that homes and businesses use energy in the future. At a business level, we've done a number of things as well. Since amalgamation, we've reduced the number of vehicles on our streets by about 400 units, or equal to about 40%. So today we found a way to actually get the work done using less vehicles. We're one of the first fleets to move to biodiesel fuels. We have an active tree planting program. We plant about 2,500 trees a year along with the city. But more exciting for me is that we've now introduced a program where if a customer chooses to go to an e-billing program, we will plant a tree on their behalf. And so we're expecting that number of 2,500 a year to grow to about 10,000 a year. We also recycle at Toronto Hydro. So when we take wires down and poles down and throw pieces of paper into the recycling, we measure all of that, and we have over 75% of the waste in our company that's produced by our company is now recycled. Another piece that's a bit of a first of a kind for us is, you know how each corporation does an annual report? This year what we've done is we've gone out and published a social responsibility report, and we've gone external and we've had somebody verify that. So let me tell you what's next. If I could quickly give you three things, because I'm getting to wrap it up. I want Toronto Hydro to be a key partner in the decarbonization of Toronto, if I could call it that. We're very keen. We're working with Mayor Miller in his climate change program, and we see that being a key cornerstone of how we move forward. We're going to take our corporate responsibility and move to a zero carbon footprint strategy, both reducing and having carbon offsets. And later this year, or early next year, as we introduce time of use rates, where customers will be encouraged to take their consumption off a peak and move it to valley periods, I think we have an opportunity to be a real leader in the electric vehicle. A refueling station of the future is one where electric vehicle pulls up to a Toronto Hydro station and is recharged. So those are the kinds of things we're thinking about in the future. Those are obviously major contributors to a smog strategy, and we look forward to being your partner in this effort. Thank you very much.